Hey, I hope your day is going great. So this year we have been given an amazing opportunity to switch kitchens for the preparation and the bottling of our kimchi. So the situation we're in right now is amazing. Another local business that has their own commercial kitchen that they've built. We are renting out that kitchen right now, 1 day a week. We're gonna get right to it. We'll be there in a few minutes. A good country style kimchi always starts with a good Napa cabbage. Some people call this Chinese cabbage because I believe it originated in China, near Beijing. However, if you look at, these are awesome heads of the cabbage. They're smaller. They can get twice as big as this. However, the reason I like this is because of the amount of dark green to the partial stem, the whitish part. I like an equal amount in the kimchi. Now, this isn't always the case. A lot of times when it's the off season, you end up getting Napa cabbage that is more so just the white or lighter green. But man, this is amazing. These big broad leaves right here really add that crunch and really grab all that flavor that we add to the kimchi. So the first step in a kimchi making process is chopping these up. Usually they take their Napa and they cut right down the middle, cut it in half, and that's beautiful right there. You can see the yellow inside. And then they do another cut. They cut it in quarters. So you end up having a quarter, leaving the stem right here intact, so all of the part of the leaves of the cabbage are still intact. And in Korea and then authentic kimchis that are made in the United States, usually they salt every single layer inside here with sea salt. That is not how we do it. I make what is called a quick kimchi. So what I do is I go through the head of Napa cabbage, separate them out like this, and then I cut off the edge. I cut off the stem just like that. And then I, watch as I cut it off right there. And sometimes if it's a bigger head, I'll make another cut down here, so I'll show you how I do that. I just hold it down, make another cut down the middle. Then I make my cuts. So I cut the Napa cabbage up into 1.5 inch pieces before I soak it in the water. There you go. So that's half of it. And then I slide it off into my produce washing sink. So this sink right here has the sole purpose of being filled up with water and washing the produce. So I'm gonna let it soak in here. I'm gonna actually cut all this Napa cabbage up and soak it right here. Gonna serve two purposes. One, to wash it, and another, once I add the salt in a later process, it's gonna actually draw the moisture out better. It's gonna quicken the salting time, the brining time, as you would imagine. All right, let me get to work. Well, this batch of Napa cabbage that I have here is rather impressive. Don't have much waste at all. Not many leaves were damaged by insects or anything. Because we're using, a product that's grown from the ground, sometimes there will be insects in here, and it's really important that while I'm cutting up the Napa for the first time, I'm inspecting it. As I'm putting it in the soak tub over here with the water, I'm gonna agitate it, and I'll show you that in a minute once I'm done cutting up all this Napa. But when I agitate it, it'll get rid of a lot of that dirt, and I mean, it'll get rid of most of it, not a lot of it. And it will also, any kind of bugs that'll remain in there after, if I haven't caught them, they will kind of float to the surface or sink to the bottom. They won't be a part of, you know, the final product. You don't want any kind of insects, obviously. Here's our sink with all of our Napa cabbage. So what I'm gonna do, now it's time to agitate and salt. We have all of our Napa cabbage in here. I'm gonna run the water a little bit more, agitate it. We have a good amount in here. We wanna get all of this Napa submerged to rinse it off. This is another chance to do my inspection of the Napa. I wanna make sure we don't have any dirt. We don't have any bugs. We don't have any foreign debris. Also want to look at to see if we have any damaged leaves. This Napa is beautiful. This is, when I take a good handful out of here, it's got a good mix of the whites, the light greens, and the dark greens, which is great. It adds a good balanced kimchi. See, things like this, sometimes I don't pay that much attention to. It's got some spots on it. However, when I have time like this, I can just toss that. It's not going to really affect, you know, how many, oh, see, found something. A little bit of a piece that doesn't look so kosher here. All right. Looking good. Nice. Everything's been submerged. Everything's good to go. So now it's time to put all of that into our big, gigantic 25-gallon container. And how I'm gonna do that, every time I put a couple scoops in, I'm gonna then throw some salt in it, okay? So we use all natural sea salt. You must use sea salt. Okay, iodized salt will not work or not help for the fermentation process. You have to use all natural sea salt. More scoop, and I'll show you the salting process. It's all that's in here, sea salt, and it's coarse. It's not like the table salt that you get. It's big, huge chunks. And we're gonna take 2 handfuls and sprinkle each layer. Then I just come through and I agitate. Once again, this is another time that I'm looking for anything that may need to be thrown away. Looking for any foreign matter, small little tiny microscopic things I'm trying to look for. I'm looking for small imperfections, and I'm also agitating all of the Napa cabbage so it gets covered in sea salt. This is the most important part of the process of fermentation. Making sure that it gets a proper coating of salt. So what I'm doing right now is did my final salting. I'm patting it down, trying to get all of the loose debris down into the salt. The next step in the process is, while our Napa cabbage is sitting here salting, it's drawing the moisture out of it, I also would like to salt our radish. Now, you can use any type of radish for kimchi, for fermenting. I like it because it adds a little bit of crunch, it adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of spiciness. I also like to have the radish salted. So I put it in right now using a mandolin to make sure all of the pieces are consistent. I put it into our brining mixture right now, and then I'll mix it in once I'm done chopping this up. Meanwhile, remember, the key to all of this is this entire time, our Napa cabbage is going through that salt process where it is drawing the moisture out and also working as a preservative and a catalyst for the fermentation. So I'm gonna go through each one of these pieces of daikon radish. Now, there's other types of radish. If you see it, it's called a juju radish, I believe, or jeju. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. It's a fatter, shorter radish. The key is, with your radish and your kimchi, for me, is get a mild radish. These radishes are more almost sweet rather than spicy, like your typical red, small radish that you would grow or that you would get in the grocery store. Okay, now that I'm finished with the mandolin, now I'm gonna kind of incorporate all of the radish into the Napa cabbage to get salt all over the little pieces or slices of radish. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt just so the radish isn't left out, you know. Gotta make sure to get the radish nice and salted too. So this is our base mixture right here for our country style kimchi. Napa cabbage, daikon, or mild radish. One time we actually used watermelon radish in here because we had a local farm that grew it, and boy did it look beautiful. Nice pinkish red. All right, we're good. We can cover back up. A common question we get with our kimchi is, where do you get your gochujang from? Now, gochujang is like the paste that is usually on traditional kimchi, is put between each layer of that Napa cabbage, how I showed you earlier. So to answer the question, I don't do a traditional gochujang. However, we do make it from scratch. Our main ingredients: ginger root. Okay, that's one of our #1 ingredients, fresh ginger root. And I can tell you, this is the most frustrating part of making our gochujang, because not only is it tedious taking off all of the skin off of the ginger root, however, it is also hard to find good ginger root and enough of it to make a good gochujang. Sometimes you buy ginger and it's all bad, and you really can't tell by looking on the outside of it. You have to kind of break it open to look at it, and you're kind of ruining it or messing it up if you do that at the store. So that's the next part, is taking off the skin from our ginger and dicing it up. Easiest way, I cut some of the outer nodules off, like that. That would be where it would be growing from. And then easily take a spoon and just scrape. This takes the outer skin off of the actual ginger root and makes it all usable. And then we will once we get that outer skin off, we put it to the side. All this is discarded. Take this big one, take the end off of this. These are actually really nice pieces of ginger. Good smell, fresh. They must have been in cold storage for not that long of a time. As you can see with the spoon, using a towards your body motion and your thumb, you just bring the spoon towards you and it cups off all of the skin. Usually it's fairly easy to do. Some people do this, scrape like this, away from your body. I find that gets rid of too much of the actual ginger itself. So I like doing a light scrape toward the body. All right, let's get all this ginger peeled. So while I'm peeling this ginger, you know, this is the time that cabbage is still having that sea salt work on it. The cabbage actually and the daikon radish now. All this time is very crucial. We need a couple hours to get that to properly brine in that salt solution. Mainly just salt, but you'll see at the end how it becomes a solution. So all of this time that we're prepping all of the ingredients for our gochujang paste, or liquid, whatever you want to call it, is time that is needed. All right, now it's all covered. Now I'm gonna give it a rinse just to make sure we don't have any more of that skin on the outside of it. And then a cut. Our last product to cut up, or last raw ingredient to cut up, is what I like to call green onions, or some call them scallions. They're called spring onions, whatever you'd like to call them. We've already kind of washed them and gotten all of the bad stem parts off. And what I do, to make sure they're all kind of even here, cut off the roots of them to discard into the trash. And then we do small chops down here. This is one of my favorite ingredients in the kimchi. You gotta love that part of the onion. Gives it color, gives it flavor. Also gives it one of those distinct smells that people either love or hate. I'm gonna finish cutting these up. This will be the last thing that raw ingredient we need to cut up. Garlic right here, we've already, we use already pre-peeled garlic, so that's already been washed. The ginger's underneath, that's right there. So this is going to go into making our gochujang. This is going to go into the mix after we're done rinsing the cabbage. All right, stay tuned. All right, time to label. We have a front label. Our labels are all vinyl. Waterproof. There's our front. I'm gonna turn it over. Yeah, we're still labeling by hand. I haven't reached out to get one of those label machines yet. They're just too pricey because it takes about, once I get on a roll, 10 or 20 seconds to label each. I'm going to keep on labeling, and then when you come back, we're going to be ready to rinse our cabbage and have it ready to make our paste for our kimchi. See you in a few. All right, if somebody else that actually makes kimchi or any fermented product commercially could chime in maybe. Our health department makes us put a bottled on date, and today is the 31st, so I'm going to put 1/31/23, and they also make us put a best by date, which is 3 months away, and that would be, if we do 3 months, it would be 5/1/23. So it's interesting to me that we have to put a best by date on here 3 months from when we make it, because it is a fermented product and it could be eaten years after you make it. So chime in, maybe leave a comment and let me know if some other health departments do that same exact thing for fermented products. All right, I have to date each one of these 4 cases. All right, now what I'm doing, I'm getting ready to rinse. We got nice fresh water going in here. This is what our Napa cabbage and our daikon radish should look like. Flimsy, wilty. Our water level has literally come up to almost the top. Our level of cabbage and everything has dropped down 2 or 3 inches. It's been about 2.5 hours since we first salted everything. So now my job is to take this, put it in the fresh water, and we're gonna do that twice to taste. So what that means is I will take a piece out and I will actually taste it after 2 rinses to make sure it's not too salty. If it's too salty, then I'm gonna rinse again. Once again, as I'm doing this, I'm looking for pieces that are bad. I'm looking for any kind of foreign debris constantly. This is like the 3rd time I've been looking for those types of things. Remember, I'm taking it out of the brine solution now and I'm putting it in to fresh water to give it 1 rinse. The salt, the sea salt has permeated all of the cabbage and all of the daikon radish at this point. So now all of our mixtures in here, I'm going to rinse. I'm gonna move it around, agitate it. Now, with our strainer, we're now gonna move it up, put it back into the original container that I just rinsed it out of. Try to get as much water out as possible. So at this point in time, this cabbage and daikon mixture is too salty. Alright, we need one more rinse. Now our Napa and daikon is ready for our onion. In here, mix it around a little bit. Give it good consistency. Okay, we're gonna mix around a lot more once we make our paste mixture. All right, I'll get back to you. Let me do a little bit of cleaning up. All right, guys, here's the important part. This is where we use our food processor. We blend our fresh ginger, fresh garlic, to make our gochujang. So I put a mixture, a little bit more garlic than ginger in here until it's about halfway up the actual blade right here, okay? Then I blend. So this is where an authentic Korean kimchi, you would probably dice up a pear or other type of fruit for sweetness. Where what I do, each time we mix, I put about a teaspoon of cane sugar, okay? And that's it. Along with that, I add a little bit of water, and then about 5 heaping teaspoons of red pepper flake. 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll notice there's a bunch of things that I'm missing here. I do not add any fish paste, fish sauce, brined shrimp. This is a vegan kimchi, so this is all we add right here. And there is our gochujang paste. Now I need to do that probably about 5 or 6 more times. Now I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that are experts at making kimchi. That's fine. I'm not claiming to have the one and only way to make kimchi. However, this has been working for us for the last 7-8 years, and we've been selling it for about 5 or 6. Right now, I'm pushing it down. This is the process you would do in a crock to try to get out any air. You don't want air, you don't want oxygen in the mixture. You want it submerged. So right now I'm pushing it all down. It's not going to be that big of a deal for us because we're bottling it today. And we're going to let it cold ferment in the bottles over the next 2 weeks. So you can see, pushing it down, good to go. Once again, this is how we make kimchi. This isn't the one and only way. This is I literally shared with you all of our ingredients. Nothing secret here. All right, now, ready to bottle. All right guys, we just made our finished product. Now it's time to bottle the kimchi. We started at about 8:15. It is now 11:24. Some amazing looking kimchi. Now, another thing that we do differently, we don't ferment the kimchi before we bottle it. We bottle it and let it ferment in the bottles, which causes a lot of pressure. However, that's the way we got to do it. In other words, part of our county health department code has us making sure that it gets cold and stays to temperature. There is no room temperature fermenting. You can do that on your own if you buy a fresh jar from us, but we ferment in the jar in about 36 degrees Fahrenheit in our refrigeration. All right, we got the bottles there. I'm gonna set up my workstation right here and we're gonna start bottling the kimchi. So I have my workstation here. I have my container of water that I'm gonna dunk it in to clean it off of. I have my wet rag to rub the outer rim. So I want to make sure to pack all of the veg completely in. See how we have air pockets right there? We don't necessarily want air pockets, so we want to push down, push down. It's ready to wipe off. The wet rag. Put our lid on, extra tight. Dip down in the water. And there you go. First jar of kimchi. All right, I'm gonna come back to you when I'm done. Okay guys, really cool. So if you remember earlier, I estimated that we were gonna be able to bottle 4 cases of our country style kimchi. I kind of underestimated. We had 4.5 cases, which is great. That means 54 jars, 16-ounce jars of kimchi. Here they are. So each one of these jars is going to be put into their cases over there. We are then going to take a few of the cases over to the market at the Charles. The rest of the cases will be put in refrigeration and taken to our winter market. So what's really cool is having this commercial kitchen right here that is dedicated to just prepping, bottling, and having it as a devoted kitchen that I can use 1 or 2 days a week has actually changed the kimchi game. It really has. I'm able to, if I really needed to, get in here and probably do 3 to 4 times the amount of kimchi that I used to do last year. So that also opens up doors as far as us shopping around for other people to purchase our kimchi wholesale and possibly, you know, retail our kimchi in more than just the market and a few retail stores. All right, guys. So I hope that you got a little bit out of the kimchi production. This was kind of twofold video. It was a little bit about how to get that fermentation started. Also, it was about what it's like to spend 5 hours making kimchi and bottling it for retail purposes. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please make sure that you comment down below, and please subscribe. If you're watching this video, please give me a subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bye.